Join us today as we discuss a new class idea for 5th edition. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome all you new folks. Today we're going to be talking about some ideas that Brad had for a new class, probably for 5th edition. D&D. In case you don't know what I mean by 5th edition at this point, hopefully you do. Yeah, hopefully you do. Before we get started, if you're a returning viewer and haven't done so already, we really appreciate you hitting that like and subscribe button. And once you're done with this, make some comments. Spread it around if you can. If you know some like-minded folks,
share it with your friends.
We want the channel to grow, and plus also tell us what you want to hear us talk about. So if you like what you're hearing today, let us know. We'll do more of it. So with that, Brad.
So I'm thinking about like a homebrew class. I could even be squished down to a subclass, maybe even. But with the idea being of an academic, a professor at a institution of higher learning, or a librarian, or a curator of some sort of museum or some such thing. Just an academic sort who could, so your Indiana Jones would be like, he could be kind of like a rogue, you know what I mean? Kind of deal. So you got that with the swashbuckler kind of academic that's going off searching for adventure, or you could play it as the shy, forced into a situation kind of person who doesn't want anything more than just sit in their library and tell people to shh. But here they find themselves out in the big world fighting for their lives and their friends, or how they're all the different ways you do it.
Okay. So. Okay. Yeah.
So I envision it as a half caster, but with the spells only being like utilitarian spells, like no like damage spells. Maybe a cure wounds because you've been in a library. You could be studying up on medical stuff and locate object, comprehend languages. Stuff that would help you detect magic. All the things that would help you find and or evaluate and study, research magic items, old texts, spell scrolls, anthropological findings, all the things, so you got utility spells like that would help you do those things. Knock, maybe, stuff like that has you can think there would be a good reason why somebody who was a researcher or an archaeologist or something like that, a professor, a teacher, spells that they could use in that profession, which would then also be useful in campaign.
All right.
And then from the more melee perspective of the other side of the half-caster, that I don't know if that's a rogue or a bard, or neither one of those, or else it's a subclass. But that would take its cues for how to build that character from the rogue or the bard. I mean, possibly the fighter if that's what your background says, or maybe this is a class where you kind of get to specify your background somewhat.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're a college professor who does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the side, or you are a librarian who plays the lyre and sings, goes to open mic stand-up comedy nights.
So maybe you could do that with the when it comes time to pick like the subclass or what have you. Maybe that's where you could...
Right. Especially, the different subclasses would lead you down those different directions. Yeah. You have fighting skills. You have bard kind of skills. You have rogue kind of skills for whatever reason. You maybe even wizard kind of skills, or even sorcerer, I suppose. You know what I mean? You could be someone who was, touched by the otherworldly. All the different, you can do all those choices with your subclass, and then just build your initial melee side of the class with, like probably intelligence and wisdom, or intelligence as charisma as your things.
Yeah.
Probably charisma, I would think, because if you're going to be some sort of teacher or whatever, and wisdom, you don't necessarily get wisdom by sitting in a classroom, But whatever, maybe it's constitution, whatever it is. And this is, by the way, just a very theoretical thing. I haven't obviously fleshed this all out yet. I want to hear your thoughts and Bobby's. So, you got those things, and then your proficiencies would be like, well, I don't know, calligraphy kits, cartography, forgery even perhaps, poisoning.
Yeah, or healing.
Healing.
I would definitely have either as just a class feature up front, or as you level up, definitely have a way to keep learning languages in the class.
Sure. Yeah. Like as you pretty like 6th level, you get an extra language or something like that.
Yeah, but also maybe trying to take inspiration from how the wizard does things. The wizard, whenever they find scrolls, they can copy them into their spell books and it becomes a spell known. Maybe a similar concept. One of your spells could be like read languages or something, and after you've done it to a language, or it might be such a thing where like you have to do like a certain number of times or something, or
like you use comprehend languages 3 times on this particular language,
or like
and then you have a proficiency with it after that,
right? Or maybe something like whenever you use it, roll a d20, and if you get like a certain number above,
it's retained.
It's retained. And,
yeah, I like that a lot.
Something like that.
This is why we talk things out, people.
Because obviously as a scholar, you're going to want to be learning new languages, and if you're out doing, your Indiana Jones thing, you're going to be exposed to them. So,
and you don't want to waste a spell slot doing comprehend languages every time.
Right.
And you would have the experience with the background of learning, absorbing information, and retaining it.
Right. And and you can go one farther, and if you could get a hold of whatever the equivalent to the Rosetta Stone would be, plus some samples of the other writings. If you can spend X number of days or weeks or whatever reading it, then now you're proficient in that too. To really highlight the academic background, and
And so some of the other classes, a couple of the other classes have kind of touched on this a little bit. And the wizards got the order of the scribes, and the clerics have the knowledge domain. Excuse me. Sorry. But yeah, definitely some clues can be taken from those 2 classes about how to shape that class. But I definitely want it to be more, definitely half caster, right? So definitely some melee stuff. Even if strength is your strength and dexterity both suck, you're still gonna be out there doing it. You know what I mean? Because a person that only is fighting with a dagger, and I'm not saying that that's the deal, but if you're only fighting with a dagger and it's only 1d4 plus 2 every time, you're not doing a whole lot of damage, but you're out there doing your part and you're risking your life. You're not just in the back with the wizard trying not to get smashed. Although I do think that it should be to some extent like a lower hit die, not as low as the wizard.
You're not a fighter or a barbarian who's out there eating a dozen raw eggs every morning and just ripped as all get out.
Well, so like the Rangers that have caster wins got a 10 hit die, right? But it's you would think that, right? Whereas this may be an 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say an 8 where I'd probably fall on this one.
And then when you're giving them their stuff that they start off with, they get more languages than the other classes because that's what they do. You know what I mean? And some of your skill proficiencies that you would get automatically, would be, insight and perception, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of other spells. Well, I say there's a ton. I'm drawing past editions. I know there are other spells that would be useful, like Shape Earth is a spell, right?
Sure.
You can do another one with water, if I recall correctly.
Shape water. Yeah.
Those are both definitely come in handy because if you're excavating,
Right.
you
Or
got
doing
those.
underwater archaeology.
Yeah, you got those. Breathing underwater would be a thing you'd want to be able to do.
Yeah, I could see that in a spell if there's a spell that does that. I know that if you're an aquatic elf, you get to breathe underwater.
Yeah.
Or aquatic half elf, I guess.
Then I would say probably the trap detection from the rogue.
Oh, for sure. Detect traps and
Disarm,
probably
yeah.
even your disarm trap, detect disarm, and even probably proficiency with thieves tools.
Yeah.
Proficiencies with thieves tools, maybe calligraphy, and then as you get into your different subclasses, then are you the more bardy kind of dude? Your proficiencies with some musical instruments? Are you more roguey in your proficiencies with stealth and sleight of hand? Are you more fiery in your acrobatics and athletics or whatever?
Yeah, if you went I suppose if you modeled the more hand-to-hand melee version off of the more recent Sherlock Holmes, you could make a case for having it so that you'd add your intelligence modifier to the damage.
Right. With the Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they go out of their way in that one scene where he's pit fighting.
Yeah.
To show how intellectual. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could even probably give him a better, like, whatever, hand-to-hand combat, whatever they call it. I can't remember what they call it right now. Unarmed strike.
Unarmed strike, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because that could be your subclass if you spent time in the gym.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. And I would say I'd probably start with proficiency with at least one, with a martial weapon.
Oh, sure.
Because at the very least you could argue that he's been fencing in the college or something.
Right, exactly. So you would want, like fencing foil isn't one of our options, but the rapier.
Yeah, rapier, short sword,
or short sword,
long sword, whatever.
Dagger.
Yeah. Just he's make it a list, because I don't remember off the top of my head what was on the list of martial weapons. Just make sure you can't pick like a bastard sword or something, because obviously he's not Conan the librarian. He's Indiana Jones.
Well, thanks for ruining that for me.
Well, maybe he is. I don't know.
The barbarian librarian.
That's from the Weird Al's movie. When they were trying to think of other shows to have, and so they had Conan the librarian. Like one guy brings up a book he's supposed to be turning in. It's like he tries to hand it to him. He's like, "Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?" Tell him where it's supposed to go. And the next guy goes, "This book's late." He picks up his giant broadsword, just splits the dude in half. So yeah, I mean, you could go that route.
Fine. Yeah. So then obviously with the Tashas and the Xanthars, you get the whole origin and class option thing, so you can take away your it's not so. Well, if I'm gonna be a cleric, Hildworth gets some, boost of wisdom or whatever, wisdom and constitution, or I might think about being a gnome if I'm gonna be a wizard because they get intelligent, stuff like that. While that's not as big of a thing anymore because you can choose the optional origin things, I still like the idea of not having so many options thusly. Like, I think you should have some. I don't think everybody should just be able to pick which ability scores they want to raise as an ability score like that. You know what I mean? At when you're building your character initially. I think that should be totally tied to your background. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or race, either way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've made my preferences known on that one, but
right. I mean, I get the reasons some people.
I have considered a possible middle ground of, since ultimately we're talking three, ultimately
Three, what?
Well, because it's 2 points in one and 1 point in another, or 1 point in 3 different stats, right?
Most times. Sometimes it's 2 and 2. Like in a couple times things it's 2 and 2, but mostly 2 and 1.
Okay, so what if it was 1 tied to race to represent, like, say your orcs, you are stronger, you know?
Right, sure, I like that.
1 tied to race and the other 2 tied to the background. To show that, yeah, it does matter, but it also matters what you've done.
Sure.
You know?
My thing is, I understand why someone, especially if they are of a race now that feels repressed in some way, how granting some race proficient, or, you know, whatever, in intelligence, say. And, like, gnomes are really smart. Orcs aren't. They're dumb. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand the argument.
Well, that's why I can live with taking away the negatives.
Right.
But
So I'm down with the.
But the problem is, like, that does happen though. It's like, because they're not all human. So there's a very high probability some of them are smarter than some of the others. Like, they're not even working on the same biological basis.
Totally get it. Totally
So,
understand.
But yeah, but that's why I can take away the negatives. You know, I get taking like the orc to take away the negative, and I understand. You know, yeah, mainly from a gameplay perspective of why am I playing one of the only races that gets penalized at all? Because I think the only other major one back in third was, I think, elves have a negative to their constitution, if I remember right.
Mm. Yeah, they don't anymore.
Because they're frail. You know, I could take one and break them in half.
Well, not anymore. Now they're strong. Ish.
They're still short.
Yeah. Well, no. In 5e, they're from 5 to 6 feet tall.
Ridiculous.
Elves?
Elves aren't supposed to be that tall. Elves supposed to top out at like 5'5".
Well, it's between 5 and 6 feet tall.
That's
I know. I know. Topping out. I know. It's hard to come back from Legolas, though. I'm just saying. I mean, you're viewing elves like Santa's Workshop, and I think I'm viewing Santa's Workshop elves like gnomes, but they're called elves. So I get it.
Yeah, no, I was just going off how they were in 3.5. They're not depicted as tall, which is odd because they are Tolkien elves is what they're supposed to be,
Right? And they're tall.
Yeah. So
regardless, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So I get the whole one from race, one from background, and one from class, or something like that.
yeah, something like that.
So if you're going to go be a cleric, then obviously your wisdom would go up.
Yeah.
If you're going to go be a rogue, then obviously your dexterity is going to get better. Right. But then you choose the background, and if you're a cleric that was an acolyte, then maybe your intelligence got better too, because you just had all that time sitting there studying or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. I'd be down with the 1-1-1. You down with OPP? I mean 1-1-1.
You know me.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's not just about this class, obviously, but
Yeah.
but that is a good note for the playtest people. Yeah. So what else about this class here?
Yeah, like I said, I agree. I'd go for the utility spells.
I would definitely like them to have some ritual spells,
Yeah.
like identify.
Would you actually build a limitation into it so they literally could not have spells that do damage?
Yeah.
Okay. Because one thing is, as long as that limitation is in place, I would also have them be like the wizard, where if they come across scrolls, they can learn the spells.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it's, it plays into everything else they're doing.
Right.
But as long as you make it so that they can't, because otherwise people are just going to backdoor it into playing a half wizard. If
Right.
they could be like, well, that's all nice and good, but good thing I found this fireball over here,
Right.
And it's like, well, come on.
No,
dude.
I don't think that this. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't have a librarian that wants to get out there and throw fireballs around, but that's not the type of gameplay that I envision with this
Right.
class. I mean, you don't have to be the timid, scared, I'm gonna go hide behind the wizard.
Right. No. You'd still like contribute with the other spells.
Right. And right. So all the utility spells, the buff spells, right? I mean, even if you, well, not like Bess and Blaine, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Any of the buff, nerf, utility spells.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't the one 5th edition campaign I was playing in. I didn't get very far in it, but like half of my spells as a sorcerer were utility spells, and everyone looked at me crazy like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I've got cantrips I can throw in all day long to hurt people. I've got fireball stuff. Like this other stuff, I'm telling you guys, you don't play D&D, like this other stuff, there will come a moment when you're like, man, if only we could do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I got you, fam, and I can do this.
So that brings a good point. When you said the no damage doing spells, yes, 100%. Correction, 99%. Because I wouldn't, I'm not sold on this, but I have thought about letting him have or a mind sliver cantrip.
That's psychic damage, right?
Uh-huh.
No. Yeah, I mean, it might end up coming down to you literally just have to list like these are these spells you're allowed to learn, no matter how you end up learning them, kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, well,
because there could be others like I could think of a valid reason for them to have disintegrate.
Sure, but I mean, and so first of all, I'm not married to the whole mind sliver thing to begin with. Second of all, just saying you can't have any damage dealing spells except mind sliver. We're going to give you mind sliver from the get.
Yeah.
Because while you've been studying, you found how to get into somebody's head.
Yeah.
And you're not killing them, but you're just from across the room, you can get in their head and make them have to go take an aspirin or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe even you use it like a class feature that you can only use a couple times per long rest or something like that.
Yeah. Well, again, the thoroughly thinking everything through 3.5, they had spell-like abilities in 3.5, which are what they sound like. It's a spell, but it's not a spell. It's not a spell slot. It's an ability, and it had save DCs and everything, but you can only use it X number of times, and
Well, this is the mind sliver is an actual cantrip. I mean, we
Right.
could homebrew something else.
Right, I'm saying you're saying to repurpose it though, like you can only do it X number of times per rest and everything, like.
Well, right, but there's already a lot of that now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not on cantrips necessarily, but yeah, probably so on cantrips too. So, say for Fey touched feat. So you get your charisma bonus or wisdom bonus or intelligence or whatever. And then you get Misty Step. But that's a spell, it's not a cantrip, but you can only use it.
Right, well what I'm saying is these didn't take up spell slots or anything. These were, these were a whole other
Well, these you can use as a spell on your spell slots, but you can use it once or twice a day. So they already do that thing where it takes a spell and limits its use.
Yeah.
But here it also allows them to use it as a spell slot. But this dude isn't going to be able to do that because he has no damage dealing spell slots.
Right. Yeah, this is more what I'm talking about. There's no spell slots involved at all. It's an ability. It's a spell, but it's an ability.
I get it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We don't have to. Yeah.
So yeah,
but I'm not even married to that. But just having one. I'm feeling squishy right now. I'd like to give you 1d6 hit points of damage from across the room without getting close enough to stab you with a knife. Then.
Yeah.
Also, I can think of narrative ways that really works. Like if you're sneaking through a dungeon and there's a guard up there outside of this door you need to get in, you just stab him until he has to go get help.
Good save. But yeah, I could see doing it that way. I could see expressly limiting the type of damage that would be allowed instead of just cutting off all damage spells and maybe make it so that it can't be, for instance, fire damage because you don't want to destroy the artifacts.
Right.
Things like that. you know,
So that's why I look
curtail.
that's why I look for one that's
Yeah.
specifically psychic, because of he's already, he's got all the intelligence thing going on anyway. Blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
I got you.
But I'm not. So there's other ones. There's like poison spray. That's a cantrip, but
Right.
you can flavor that as, you can have this in this class if you take the poisoner feat, and you can mix up the poisons, but you can just use it like a cantrip.
I got you. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, change the poison.
Yeah.
Instead of just being just a flat poison damage,
Right.
like, oh, this is basilisk venom. You're half turned stone.
Right, and on the cantrip, I think it takes the damage, but I don't think that he is in the poison condition after that.
Probably not. Probably not a cantrip.
Right. But depending on how much money I spent making these poisons, then maybe you could
Gotcha.
make it so that he's now poisoned, so he's going to have disadvantage on his next attack roll or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely potential there. Should put pen to paper and see what we come up with. Now that we are theoretically going to be playing more frequently, might actually be able to test some of these ideas out too.
That's the thing, we didn't mention that, but not only are we back to playing, but we used to play every 2 weeks. And now there's a chance that on a lot of weeks, we can play once a week.
Yeah.
And the reasons that's good, because my schedule often conflicts. One of our other players, Owen, he may have other, I'm not going to say commitments, but he may have other people deciding where he needs to be on certain times.
Yeah.
And everybody gets vacations, or they're not feeling well or whatever. So before, if we missed a session, then that's a month before we play again, since the last time that we played.
Yeah.
This time, maybe it's only 2 or 3 weeks before we're good.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes we'll be able to play every week, and that would just be super awesome, because, as Bobby mentioned to me earlier, which I never even thought about, not only can we, kind of juice up our campaign a little bit, which would make Chad happy, because he wants to level up yesterday every time, which who doesn't?
Yeah. I don't blame him. I'm just,
Right. I'm just saying. So, but we get more of that because we play more of that campaign, but also it gives us a chance to do some one-shots of other things. Maybe even other games, other.
Yeah, I picked up the books for another system, Dungeon Crawl Classics, at Gen Con, that I do want to at least try.
Is that with the cards or the scratch-off tickets?
Yeah. The I also bought some they're scratch-off character cards, because Dungeon Crawl Classics is an OSR game, I believe. It's old school Renaissance is what it stands for. Trying to get the feel of first and second edition, where the game was considerably more deadly. You literally are supposed to start with like 4 or 5 characters at level 0. Everyone.
And your mage hardly ever made it through anything.
Yeah, and you run through your level 0 campaign thing real quick. Then whoever's left alive at the end, from them, that's who you pick your first level character from. And like elves, dwarves, and halflings, that's a class. That's not a race. So it's human.
And the scratch-off ticket thing?
Yeah, it's human, and then if you make it, you pick from a handful of classes, or if you're a dwarf, you get some special abilities, and you're stuck with a fewer number of classes, and same with halflings and elves. So yeah, which is a lot more like first edition, where those were classes, not races. So
And so one shots of any, maybe 5e one shots, maybe in the Forgotten Realms like we're doing now, maybe in Eberron or Greyhawk or whatever. Maybe it's an extra plain old dealie, whatever. We got the one shot option, as well as with the one shot option. Then we can let Bob play a little bit. Like right now, he didn't even necessarily want to be the DM on this deal. He was just the one who finally got up and got it happening. So he'll be able to play some. Also allow some of us to run some one shots or mini series kind of campaigns. Especially Bobby told me that Owen is interested in doing so, and that's awesome. Want to get the young man as involved as possible and let him explore whatever he enjoys most about it.
I know you have some interest,
And I do. I at some point do aspire to be in the world's best dungeon master.
And I know Chad has DM'd before, and I assume would like to again. So
there's that.
Yeah. So here's hoping on all that.
And for now, if you've watched this, thank you. Also, please let me know your thoughts on this new class. A name for it. I mean, is it academic? Is it librarian? What if he's not a librarian? Well, I guess you could also play a librarian like The Librarian, like the TV show The Librarian. Did you see that with
I know I saw the previews,
Bob
I saw bits
Newhart.
and pieces here and there, but I didn't see
It wasn't any high level anything, but it was kind of cool.
They seem to keep making them, so I assume
Yeah.
they release
Well,
these.
he's a librarian and he goes off on adventures.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, your thoughts on that, your thoughts on the class in general, your thoughts on what we talked about as specifics within the class and or subclasses, your thoughts on subclasses and other things that might that we didn't talk about that you would like to see in there, or even other classes that you would be interested in seeing. Because I really enjoy the creative process. It's what makes my skirt fly up. And even in the playing the game, it's more about the narrative and the story that we're building together as a collaboration between a group of friends than it is about
Hacking and slashing.
And minning and maxing and yeah. So
Getting that fat loot.
I do like loot.
Who doesn't?
Mostly because I want to buy magic things. But.
Buy a loot. Of course, you're not a bard, so maybe not. But
well, who's to say? Yeah. So there's that. Let us know. Which leads me into the whole comment, like, subscribe, share, notification bell, ring-a-ding the bell, so that you know when we put something out. And if you value this at all, holla at your boys and let us know. Honestly, even if you don't let us know, we're gonna keep doing it. But feel a lot better about it if y'all were enjoying it too. And of course, we want to hear about that. And we do want to hear about things that you would do differently as well. We do not think that we're all that and a bag of chips. So we are definitely open to constructive criticism.
maybe just all that.
I was thinking maybe I'm just a bag of chips.
Oh, well. Collectively, we'll get there one day.
United we stand. So,
But, yeah.
that's it for me.
Yeah, so like Brad said, do comments and all that fun stuff. Just a quick note, like, things might seem a little scattershot on the channel. It's because we have a lot of interests, and obviously you've got to start at like a kind of a ground level approach to everything and build up to it. And it's taken a while to build the ground floors on some things. Other things like Battletech took like one video and off we go. D&D, like there's new stuff happening a lot, and we have new ideas a lot. And then like the movies, that had to get put on the back burner at the beginning because Gen Con was coming up, and then the Battletech stuff took off. And I mean, at some point, I still want to talk about books and comic books. We haven't even begun to get to that yet. So things might look a little schizophrenic, and sometimes they are behind the scenes too.
We haven't even started doing previews or reviews on trailers or series or movies.
Yeah, so like there's some things on our channel you see that look like they're one-offs. We do intend on following up on everything. So if I don't think anything we've launched out there so far was like, oh god, that sucked, we're never going back to that.
No.
For a lot of it, like I said in the other videos, I don't care if we get 5 views. If it's stuff we want to talk about, we're going to make a video about it.
And 5 people watched it.
Yeah,
And not just clicked on it, but if it came up as a view, you watched it long enough to get something from it.
Yeah.
And if you stayed with it long enough to do that, then you got some value from it, which means we touched 5 people, and not in a creepy way. So we like that, not in a creepy way. And we want to continue to do so.
This isn't Hollywood. So, no. This isn't Miramax. But, what's his name? Head of Miramax.
Feinstein? Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein, yeah. Yeah, none of that. No. We don't
Well,
have,
I mean,
we don't have,
yeah.
well, we don't have room here for a casting couch anyway, so.
Oh, fair.
But, not that we would do that if we had it anyway. But anyway.
Not that there would be any girls here for us to do that.
Well, I mean,
not because of us. I mean, Mom's got a girlfriend. I've had girlfriends. Chad has a mom. But just in our small rural community right here, we have been having trouble finding other people, let alone of the female type, which we do actively want to do. We want all the voices to be heard. So if we can find somebody that doesn't look like us to be here with us and is interested in doing that, then we will do that. Just geographically where we live, and it's just difficult to do that.
yeah. Plus, as accepted as things like D&D are at the moment, it's still not the, you don't just walk up to people and, hey, do you play D&D by any chance? Like,
No, I have a group of really good friends. They're really good people. They're all really smart. They're all really funny. They all have nice careers going on, nice families, and they all read a lot, and they read a lot of fantasy. And I approached some of them about playing D&D before I remembered that Bobby played, when I was still trying to make something happen. And it's not like they laughed me out of the room, but it seemed like a combination of they worried about the stigma of it, of being a nerd, and also I don't even know who would know that we were doing it. I just wanted to like play every once in a while and have nobody else know about it, but I guess they'd be looking us up in the mirror. And then there was the whole, I'm really not sure what it's about. I don't know why you think I would like that. And my argument was, well, just do it with me once or twice, and you'll see why I think you would like that. But we could never get there.
yeah, well, I run into the same problem with Mom.
And that was men and women, by the way.
Like, I run into the same problem with Mom whenever my sister, either of my sister's kids are here, and we need another person to play a board game. Like, if it's some just downright terrible game like Monopoly or Life, well, probably even Hungry Hungry Hippos if I had a copy, she's down, like, she's on it. But if I'm like, hey, let's play a good game, like Settlers of Catan, or
Does she
Ticket
do
to
Waterdeep?
Ride.
Does she do Lord of Waterdeep?
No, she did it
don't
like
do that?
once. And she's just like, nope, not happening. And I'm like, why not? And there's never a good reason. She's a very smart person. She could easily grasp the strategy if she gave it 10% of an effort.
Oh, I'm not saying she's. I'm not saying she is or isn't smarter than you, but she's definitely smarter than me.
Yeah, and she just refuses though.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
And
I've been there. So
and I don't understand.
one of the gals I asked to play is literally in Mensa. She graduated from Indiana University. She's a secondary school teacher. She's very smart, very witty, and and reads fantasy books ravenously. So I thought, hey, no, Rachel, I'm talking about you.
Well, me, unfortunately, I've got probably three people. Like Sarah, she would play. She played in our 3.5 game whenever she would come up.
Right.
She would definitely play.
That's Bobby's girlfriend.
That's my girlfriend. I haven't sent her a link to the channel yet. I really should.
So, in 2024, when you're watching this, hi, Sarah.
So, Angela has expressed interest once I explained what the game was, which means, and Levi, I think, would be all over it, because Levi, that's her. Levi, Angela's my older sister. Levi's her youngest son, and I'm gonna get this wrong, but I want to say he's 11 or 12 right now. Might be 13, but I think he's 11 or 12. And I know it's terrible being his uncle. I should know that, but you know what? I can remember exactly two people's birthdays: mine and my younger sister's. And that's only because growing up, all I heard was, "Don't forget to tell your sister happy birthday." And Angela, the off chance you're watching this, you had already moved out. You're several years older than I am. So
whatever, Bob.
Hey, I can remember a handful of other people's because I had to pick up their prescriptions all the time. But anyway,
that's all good.
So I just have trouble remembering people's birthdays. Okay, so, but anyway, he is like he calls me reasonably frequently. Always wants to talk about like Marvel comic characters and like, hey, could this guy beat this guy? And how would he do it? Like, how do their powers work together? And then he'll be like, well, what if a character could do this? Do you think they could beat him? And so, but
that's high level stuff.
And he's like writing these short stories all the time.
That's
and
great.
I mean, I think he would just dive head first into it.
If you didn't live in Avon?
Yeah, if you had, someone to play. So I'm hoping sometime that they're down that we can get at least 2 other people together and run a one shot or something. So just to show them how the game plays. So
Well, even just the 3 of us and you DM, and we could get that done if we can't find.
yeah,
If we can't chat, can't do it.
yeah. So
Speaking of which,
so I have people. They're just nearby.
I got people, by the way. My buddy, who lives in almost as far as Avon, he lives in Greenwood. But he comes down regularly because his wife's parents are from here. And he would like to jump in sometime. I mean, maybe not in our campaign, but we could do a one shot. Or in our campaign, he would be like a guest player in our campaign or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's that. So one of my friends is interested. He has played before, back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. If I've already told.
He's even familiar with, I don't think he played a lot, but he's even familiar with the systems of 3.5 and Pathfinder.
Yeah. Yeah. If Sarah being up here ever works out on the same weekend or something, then she might jump in. I don't know. I'll have to talk to her about it, but that's more of a. I just don't know if she's going to want to do that because we only have limited time together.
Sure.
But but she is interested. So anyway, yeah. Back to the long goodbye. So everyone out there, stay safe. Especially those of you went through the destruction of the hurricane here recently.
Western Florida.
Yeah.
Solidarity.
Don't go into the remaining floodwaters. Nothing in there's worth your life. So.
And there's things in there that will eat you.
Yeah.
There's gators and
Yeah.
pythons and things.
Yeah. Bad things. You don't want to deal with
And the Florida man.
in Florida, man. But yeah. So you folks, stay safe. Catch you later.